Joining us to discuss this and more is Republican Senator David Perdue of Georgia. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Allison.
Are you surprised that this federal judge blocked the president's executive order?
Well, I'm disappointed, but not surprised. It's a technicality, of course, but all the president's trying to do is enforce federal law. I find it ironic that this particular situation, the judge is in the city where Kate Steinle was actually murdered by a felon, a proven felon in the United States who happened to be an illegal immigrant. We've got to stop this. We've got to have cities honoring federal law, and that's all the president was trying to do.
I mean, look, you've heard the argument on the other side that if you cut federal funding, it actually hurts police forces in these cities to try to do their job. And sometimes they need to work with the immigrant community, even the illegal immigrant community, in order to get tips and solve crimes.
Well, whatever we have to do, we have to stop this. I mean, we can't have felons killing U.S. citizens. If this person were not an immigrant, this wouldn't be an issue. That city would have probably turned that individual back over to federal authorities. Look, Allison, you and I are called every day to obey laws in our country, local laws, state laws, and federal laws. And I applaud the president for trying to rein this in. This should have been done a long time ago.
You support the president. So what grade do you give him? How do you rate him as we approach the 100th day?
Well, I think to answer that question, you have to look at what he said he would do. He said job one would be to try to grow the economy. He's trying to do that by pulling back on the more onerous regulations of the last 8 years. He's trying to move into a tax program that will actually encourage growth. And I believe right now this president's moving at a business pace, not a government pace. I love the people that he's putting around him in the cabinet. I think he's developing priorities. I've been in a few private meetings with him, and he's operating as a very decisive leader. Look, what we've done internationally as well is engage the international community. I mean, he's met with President Xi from China and talked about the problems in Asia. He sent Tillerson to Moscow. Vice President Pence just finished 10 days in Asia. So this is a president that's re-engaging with the rest of the world and trying to get our economy going again. So I think he's really accomplished what he said he would do in the first 100 days.
So what's the grade?
Oh, A+, I think, so far.
Okay, A+. So let's look at, let me put up a list of some of the things that he promised to do in the 100 days, and you can tell me where you see how you rate this. Yeah. So he had promised, to repeal Obamacare. That has failed thus far. He had promised to build the border wall. That's, incomplete. He's still working on that, but that was, he's just seems to have shifted his timeline. Yep. On that, as you know, the travel ban was shot down. That will list as a fail. Success, withdraw from TPP. Success, get a conservative judge onto the Supreme Court. Tax reform, he's going to announce that today, but surely that's still an incomplete. And then he was going to label China a currency manipulator, but no longer. So if you look at that list, is that still an A+?
Allison, let me tell you how the people in America see this president so far. Consumer confidence is at a 20-year high. CEO confidence is at a 17-year high. Manufacturing confidence at a 13-year high. What these people who are looking at the results of this president in the first 100 days are seeing hope. They're seeing that this president's serious about rolling back the more onerous regulations that have sucked the very life out of our free enterprise system. They're looking at a president that's talking about doing the things we've been talking about for decades, about cleaning up our tax system, becoming more competitive with the rest of the world, not just trade deals, but also our tax situation. We've got to lower our tax rate corporately, and we've got to get rid of some of the corporate welfare and eliminate our repatriation tax. And the president's talking about that. With regard to health care, I don't think this is a failure on the part of the president. I think this is clearly on the hands of the U.S. Congress. Right now, we are not operating as a cohesive unit here. We've got to get together, Democrats, Republicans, conservative Republicans, moderate Republicans. Everybody's got to get together to solve this because health care is going to collapse. Obamacare is collapsing right now under its own weight. Let me give you an example, Allison. In my home state, we have 96 counties out of 159. Mm-hmm. There are some 1,100 counties around the country that only have one healthcare carrier in the private sector. Yeah. That can't happen. And if those go away, what are those people going to do for insurance? So This is something that we've got to deal with here in Congress.
Senator, let me very quickly ask you about the taxes that you raised, because we do understand that the president will be making some sort of announcement this week, today. If he lowers the tax rate from 35%, the corporate tax rate, from 35% to 15%, the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center says that would grow the national debt and reduce revenue by $2.4 trillion over 10 years. Are you comfortable with increasing the debt?
Well, here's what I'm comfortable with. I'm comfortable with growing the economy. Look, we have $20 trillion of debt. This is why I ran a couple of years ago the United States Senate.
I know.
We are
I mean, you're a debt and deficit hawk.
Absolutely.
So how can you get on board with this plan?
Because here's what you've got to do to solve this debt crisis. You can't cut your way out of it. You can't tax your way out of it. You can't simply grow your way out of it. You've got to do all of the above. And the first thing you've got to do is get the economy going. Job one is growing the economy. But we've got to move toward fixing our broken budget process. It hasn't worked but 4 times in 42 years. Allison, do you know that in the United States Congress, we're called to appropriate and fund the government every year? We have to pass 12 appropriation bills. You know, the average over the last 42 years, and that's Democrat and Republican administrations and Congresses, we've averaged 2.5. This is a fraud perpetrated on the American people by all politicians up here. I've been calling this out since I got here. That's what this president wants to get toward, is to start simplifying and move toward a functioning U.S. federal government.
Agreed, but what if it increases the debt?
Well, in the short term, I'm willing to do that if it means that we're going to move to these other areas and solve this long-term debt crisis. Look, the bond market and the foreign bond markets would absolutely accept a long-term strategy to solve this debt crisis. That's what I've been calling you. You're not going to solve this in 10 years. In fact, you're not going to balance this budget, as they call it, in a 10-year cycle.
Okay.
The problem here is Social Security and Medicare. We have to save Social Security and Medicare over the long term. That's a 20 or 30-year fix, frankly.
Senator, very quickly, I know that you're going to be part of this meeting. It's unprecedented to have the whole Senate go to the White House, and you're going to be getting briefed on North Korea. What are you expecting, and what are you advising the president about North Korea?
Well, first, Allison, I think your listeners and viewers should be encouraged by the fact that this president is trying to engage. He's engaged foreign leaders, he's engaging leaders in the Congress, and he's invited both Democrats and Republicans from the Senate to the White House today. I expect him to give us a demonstrative inside look about what they're thinking about relative to North Korea. There are things that we can do to put more pressure on North Korea. I'm really encouraged by the president's conversation with President Xi just 2 weeks ago. I lived in Hong Kong for a while. I've worked in China many years. I believe that there's a way forward with China to rein in this madman in North Korea.
Okay, we look forward to hearing what comes out of that meeting. Senator David Perdue, thanks so much for being on New Day.
Thanks, Allison.
Chris.